So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, B. Ed.
Good
Good
afternoon, ma'am.
afternoon po. Good afternoon po.
Before we start to our lesson proper, I'm going to introduce myself. So, I'm Jessica C. Arnaiz. So, I will be your practice teacher for this afternoon. Earlier, I asked you. I'm send a G. I sent. Sorry. I send a video in your GC and I asked you to watch the video. So I hope everyone is already watched that video. Did anyone watch the video? Hello, B. Ed.
Yes, ma'am. Napanood po namin, ma'am.
So, are you ready for my questions?
Ma'am.
Okay, so are we? So this is my question. What have you noticed in the video? If you want to answer, just open your mic or just type in our chat box.
Good
Okay.
afternoon po, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Different races po.
Okay, so good. You not different the different pieces of the in that video. So what else?
Hello po, ma'am. Hello po, ma'am. For me po, napansin ko po dun sa video na yung teacher po, magaling po siyang teacher kasi po, kahit po, nung una po, hindi sila nagkakasundo-sundo or hindi sila mapagkaisa-isa, na nakagawa po siya ng way or paraan na magagamit niya para mapag-isa sila at saka intindihin yung isa't isa. Ganun po. Thank you po.
Jillian, for your answer. So you notice that the teacher use different strategy to come up with different behavior of her students. Very good. So what else? Anyone? So since there is no responding, I think everyone is everyone will notice that the same. So the reason why I ask you to watch that video, because that video is related to our topic for this afternoon, which is our topic for this afternoon is cultural diversity in workplace. So are you ready to start our lesson? Hello, B. Ed.
Yes, ma'am.
So, so what is culture? So the word culture is derived from the Latin word colere, which means to cultivate, nurture, or to tend to the earth and grow. So, since the meaning of culture is cultivate and nurture, this is a system of sharing knowledge and experiences so that we could understand different behaviors, different beliefs, customs of other people, so that we could understand them. Okay? So, question about culture. What is culture? So, let's proceed to the next slide. So culture and cultures. So since we already know the meaning of culture is a set of learned behaviors shared by a group of people through interactions, other culture, there is co-culture, which means co-cultures, groups of people who shared values, customs, norms, behaviors related to mutual interests or characteristics besides of their national citizenship. So pop culture is a shared of it is a group of people shared different same values, custom norms, behavior, but there are also part of a general culture. Okay, did you understand? Culture, for a simpler, culture is a whole, and co-culture is a part of a whole. Did you understand what is co-cultures? The Ed? Hello?
Yes po.
Thank you. So let's proceed to the next. So the strategies to penetrate co-culture world. So the first one is assimilation. Assimilation is the strategy when co-culture member wants to fit in or join with a member of a dominant culture. So this is the strategy used by a person if she or he wants to fit in a co-culture world. Question about assimilation. Did you understand what is assimilation? Hello, Big Ed.
Ma'am, may
Yes,
example po ba?
Yeah. Sorry.
Example po sana ng assimilation.
Okay, assimilation. Example ng assimilation, ano ba? Wait. For example ng assimilation, uh, you are um you are a co-culture. You want okay. For example, I am co-culture. Okay. I want to join with the dominant culture, which is um those culture is dominant, which is they are and sorry. Okay. Okay. I am a co-culture. I want to join a in dominant culture which people. For example, the dominant culture is English speaking or English people. Um, sorry. I use the strategy assimilation in a way that I I always talk to them, and I always want to join their company.
Hello po.
Yes. Yes, Sir Archie. Sorry.
Ayan. Dinig po. Ayan. Mahina yata yung signal.
That is example of assimilation. So next is accommodation. Accommodation, when co-culture members attempt to maintain their cultural identity even while they strive to establish relationship with members of dominant culture. So this is interaction of two different culture. For example, Jessica is a co-culture and Michelle is a dominant culture. Jessica say maintain his cultural identity while she is establishing relationship with with Michelle, which is a dominant culture. That is accommodation. Did you get? Did it accommodation? Clear po sa accommodation. Hello, Bian.
Yes po.
So next is separation. When co-culture members employ strategies to separation, they tend to resist interacting with their other members they consider outsiders. So separation, from the word separate, these are the people they do not want to interact or even establish or even try to know other culture. That is separation. So, any question about the three strategies how to penetrate a co-culture world? Any question, BEL?
None po.
Thank you. So let's proceed to the next slide, which is ethnocentrism. Excuse me for a while. So sorry. So the next is the ethnocentrism. Sorry for the battle words. So ethnocentrism is judging another culture based upon the values and standards set in one's own culture. So for example of ethnocentrism, as you can see in the image, the first person automatically judging the second person, which is wearing the headdress. Okay, she is automatically judging even though they do not know what is the culture of that second person. So that is ethnocentrism. Is that clear? Question for ethnocentrism. The Ed.
No
Hello.
question. No question
Okay.
so far po.
Okay, thank you. So the next is
Papatay
cultural relativism. Sorry? May question po? Okay. Okay, the next is cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is the idea of a person, beliefs, value, and practices should be understood based on the person's own culture rather than be judged against the criteria of others. So cultural relativism is the opposite of ethnocentrism. Why? Because in relativism, you are trying to understand the different culture of different people. That is relativism. It's that clear for relativism.
Yes po.
Thank you. So the next is cultural pluralism. Advocates respect for cultural uniqueness, tolerance for differences, and adherence the principle of cultural diversity. So cultural pluralism, um, it represent that each and every one of us has its own culture. That is why cultural pluralism advocate we must respect different culture. Okay? So, clear po sa pluralism, cultural pluralism.
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. So, we proceed to the high context versus low context culture. So, according to HAL 2018, culture differences influence all international communication. Even the choice of communication medium can have cultural effects. The determining factor may not be the degree of industrialization, but rather whether the country falls into high context or low context culture. So, what is high context and low context culture? So, high context culture consider high context are regarded for using nonverbal and indirect form of communication, sorry. To understand the information conveyed, communicators must have a great deal of schema. So high context culture, these are the people that um, they have long connection and deep communication for a long period of time. And high context culture use a nonverbal communication. Okay, there is a criteria for a high context culture, which here are the list. So the first one is association. Relationship build slowly and depend on trust. So in high context culture, um, to build relationship and trust, you must need long connection. The same with as I said earlier, that you need a long connection, deep communication for deep communication for a high context culture. Okay. So next is interactions. Interaction. Nonverbal elements such as voice tone, gestures, facial expression, eye movement are significant. In a high context culture, there might used a nonverbal element. Okay, it's that clear with a high context. The ed.
Yes po.
Thank you. So next is territoriality. Space is communal. Communicators form is closely knit to communicate within a territory. So in high context culture, these people tend to communicate in the place where they are comfortable to talk. Okay, that is territoriality in high context culture. And next is temporality. Everything has its own time, and time is not easily scheduled. So in temporality, it means that schema changes and time goes by. As schema changes, time goes by, and but the meaning that convey is the same. Okay. So next is learning. Multiple sources of information are used. Thinking process proceed from general to specific to accurately learn. Group participants observe, model, demonstrate, and practice it. So if you want to enter in a high culture context, the way you learn or adapt is to observe and practice. That is the criteria of um, high context culture. Okay, is that clear with the high context culture?
Yes
Any
po.
questions? So let's proceed to the next slide. So the low context culture. Low context culture relies on explicit communication. Hence, more information is not understood if not are deleted. United States, Australia, or some parts of Western Europe are example of countries with low context culture. So in low context culture, these are the people that they know each other but doesn't have deep connection. Okay, so he also low context culture have a criteria. Okay, association. Sorry. Okay, so the first one is association. Relationship begin and end quickly. Paying attention to the external processes is the basis of productive work. So the example for this low context culture is a workplace. Okay, workplace. You are two different people. They have to talk with no specific reason. Okay, and there are no specific reason. For example, in business, for ex- um, two different people, uh they have to talk to discuss a proposal to each other. After discussing proposal, their relationship and connection end. That's why in low context culture, relationship begin and end quickly. Okay, understood for the low context culture and association. Anyone? I sorry.
Yes po,
Ed?
ma'am. Okay. Understood, ma'am.
So next is interaction. Nonverbal elements are not significant. Verbal messages as well as exchange of facts, ideas, and opinion are observable. So low context culture, there are verbal there use verbal communication. Okay, next is territoriality. Space is compartmentalized. Privacy is important, so people stand farther apart. So in low context culture, individualism and independent is valued. That's why territoriality is terri- what's this called? Territoriality is important is private and compartmentalized. Sorry for the word compartmentalized. So next is temporality. Events and tasks are scheduled and tend to be done at particular times. Change is fast and time is commodity to be spent or saved. One's time is one's own. So in low context culture, they are trained to finish their work and schedule at a in they're trained to finish they're trained themselves to accomplish their work and schedule at at that at on time. Okay, so next is learning. One source of information is used. Thinking begins with specific message to general information. Learning takes place through others' direct explanation. So it means that in high context culture, um, lear- uh, learning takes place with the individual is receiving information for the person that he or she talking. So through direct messages. So for simpler, um, what you get, what you hear is what you get. That is the criteria. Okay, that is the list of criteria of a low context culture. Okay. Any question for low context culture? Hello.
None po.
None
Wala
po.
po, ma'am.
Thank you. So, okay, these are the characteristics that we could identify the high context culture and the low context culture. For high context culture, indirect communication, low context culture, direct and specific communication, high, fewer words, more nonverbal cues, and low, high value on words rather than nonverbal cues, simple and ambiguous messages, structured messages with technical details, very verbal people seen as unattractive, smiling associated with nervousness. In low context, informal, frequent smile, and frequent use of hand gesture and facial expressions. Preference to long-term relationship and underlying messages. In low context, temporary, personal relationship. Okay. So next, long-term view for high context, long-term view of time. For low context, short-term view of time. Appointments are generally considered and flexible. Emphasis on appointments on time, management of schedules, punctuality is given high preference. for low context culture. High context, Varju, and confrontational language is preferred, and low focus on getting a job done, being specific and goal attainment, honor and respect more important than business, absorb power and possession, personal relationship not considered that much, ideas and people are assumed as equal. And private networks are used to obtain information. Information is made accessible readily, shared with others, and values family and group authority, and individualism value. So those are the characteristic that we could recognize the low and high context culture. Questions for high and low context cultures?
Hello po.
Wala po, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good
Ano lang
afternoon.
po? Can you please give at least one situational example for high context and low context cultures?
Okay.
Yun lang po.
For high context culture, um, for example, is the family. Okay, the example of a high context culture. In family, um, you are you are not using. For example, you are telling something with your parents that, or maybe your parents know that you are doing something good. Immediately, if um if your parents know that, and you are having an eye contact, immediately you know that your mother or your parents is um your parents is angered, or angered about the role, about the about the wrong, the bad things you do. That is for high context culture. While in low context culture, for example, in workplace, okay. For example, in your boss, your boss uh, said that you have to launch a new product in that particular day. So that you have to schedule that in that particular day the product is launched. The result needs to be um, present with your boss. That is low context culture. Okay, that is example of context culture.
Hello po, ma'am. In connection to what may ask po, can you please give countries with high context culture and low context culture?
Sorry.
Can you please give countries with high context culture and low context culture?
So country. So for high context, for low context culture, Japan. For for and Western Europe. For high context, culture, this is um US. Questions?
Wala na po.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you don't have any questions, so for your activity, this is a multiple choice. Okay? Are you ready for your quiz? For your activity? You can answer in our chat box. Okay? So let's start. This is 1 to 10 questions. Letter only. Ed, are you answering? Hello?
Hello po.
Are
Consider
you
po
answering?
ba naming letter tong 2, 3, 4?
Sorry?
Consider po naming letter tong 2, 3, 4 po na nakalagay.
Sorry, for the number 1, it's a letter. Sorry.
Okay po, thank you.
Hello po. Sa chat box lang po ba kami pwedeng magsagot or open mic?
Chat box po. Are you done with 1 and 2 questions?
Yes po.
Okay. Just tell me if you're done so I could next the slide.
We're done na po.
Okay, thank you. You're done? Hello, Ed.
Wait lang po, ma'am.
Sorry.
Okay na po, ma'am. Oh my God. Nice. Okay na po, ma'am.
Okay, so I think most of your answer is correct. Can I ask who is the secretary of your section?
Miss Janelle, Miss Janelle Erica po.
Okay. She is here?
Wala po ata siya, ma'am.
Okay,
Ma'am,
so
meron po kaming class manager.
Oh, manager. Who's the class manager?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay, hi, sir. Jake.
Hello po.
So, if it's okay, if your classmates send their score to you in the GC so that you could record that their activity for this afternoon.
Yes po, ma'am. I-record ko na po.
Okay, thank you.
Po.
Mm, That's it. So any questions about our topic for this afternoon?
No question so far po. But can I ask po kung ano po yung pointers to review for the midterms?
Okay, so Ma'am Dayan will be the person